In Louisiana, felons who are convicted of carrying a gun are supposed to face a minimum of 5 years in prison. Last week, a Mike Perlstein investigation found one violent criminal only got probation and then was arrested in a series of knife attacks. The case of Darnell Hunter, however, is not an isolated one. Tonight, Mike shows how the New Orleans DA's office has granted multiple breaks, and in many cases, the defendants end up back in jail, sometimes for far more serious crimes.
Honestly, I wanted to hurt him. I did. I was so upset.
That was Debbie DeSelle's reaction when she found out that the person who broke into her truck and stole her gun last March was the man her son took under his wing and hired to set up booths for conventions. DeSelle and her son knew that Nicholas Brown was a felon with an extensive drug history, including prison time after convictions for heroin, methamphetamine, and probation violations.
How could somebody that he was trying to help do this to him so blatantly?
Like most car burglars looking for guns, Brown probably would have gotten away with the crime, but DeSelle had other ideas. She went through hours of security video until she discovered the break-in. Then her son, trying to get the gun back, got this text message from Brown that amounted to a confession.
I went through almost 12 hours of videos before we found it. And when we found it, it was heart-wrenching to watch.
In addition to burglary, Brown was booked with being a felon with a firearm, a crime that carries a minimum 5-year prison sentence. DeSelle came ready to testify at his trial on April 8th when she was slammed by another surprise.
I saw him sitting on a bench with his attorney signing paperwork. The DA walked up to me and told me a deal had been made. There was going to be no trial.
She also learned there would be no prison time. Instead, the DA's office allowed Brown to plead to attempted possession of the gun, and Judge Marcus DeLarge sentenced Brown to 2 years probation.
How can you do this when I have him admitting he stole the gun?
DeSelle stumbled across a hidden and rarely discussed trend at New Orleans criminal court: leniency for defendants facing the 5-year minimum for being a felon with a gun.
You would assume that they're getting at least 5 years. And when we look at the data, we're seeing that that's not necessarily the case.
Last week, we revealed the haunting case of Darnell Hunter, a repeat felon battling mental illness and drug addiction when he was arrested for an attempted robbery with a gun. Hunter pleaded guilty as charged to the 5-year felony, yet despite being rearrested in 2 brutal stabbings, he was given probation through a legal provision known as a downward departure. After his release, Hunter was rearrested in another stabbing, this one fatal.
Darnell Hunter is a prime example of that, but he is by no means the only example of that. There are dozens and dozens every year of cases that fall into that same category.
Records show that in addition to the New Orleans DA's office agreeing to downward departures, prosecutors also often plea bargains to attempted possession of a firearm by a felon, a conviction that can carry probation.
So when you see attempted possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, it is just a get out of jail free plea.
That was the plea offered to Brown, along with probation. DeSelle was in disbelief.
I said, how can you agree to an attempted possession of a stolen firearm by a felon when he admitted to stealing the gun in writing? Where is the attempt?
A statistical analysis by Rafael Goyeneche of the Metropolitan Crime Commission shows that out of 286 felon with a gun cases in 2022 and 2023, about 1/3 of defendants got sentenced to 5 years or more. More frequently, the sentence is probation. So far, records showed that a majority of the defendants have stayed out of trouble, yet dozens have been rearrested, some for shocking crimes.
When they're back out on the streets, many of them get rearrested within a short period of time for other serious felony offenses.
For example, court records show that Talia Smith was caught last year as a felon with a gun, but was allowed to plead guilty to the lesser charge of carrying a gun with illegal drugs. After getting probation, he was rearrested last month. Police say he was dealing drugs in the French Quarter, this time with a machine gun. Malcolm Wiley Jr. pleaded guilty to being a felon with a gun in 2022, but was given a downward departure and probation. He then turned up wanted by police in the fatal shooting of a 14-year-old in January, before Wiley himself was gunned down in March. Murtis Wade pleaded guilty last year to attempted felon with a gun after he was caught with a stolen pistol. After getting probation last October, he was booked in March for second-degree murder.
The police department are arresting the same people over and over again. It frustrates the officers. It undermines the public confidence in the criminal justice system.
In Nicholas Brown's case, one strict condition ordered by Judge DeLarge was drug testing. DeLarge added a stern warning that if Brown knows that he won't be clean, to, quote, wear some extra socks or underwear that day because you're going to jail. But on his first drug test date on April 26th, Brown was a no-show. DeLarge issued a bench warrant for his arrest.
Now, to me, he's laughed in that judge's face.
Brown was picked up last week by Jefferson Parish deputies. Court records show that DeLarge ordered him released days later and set a new date for June 10th. DeSalle vows to be there.
People have to stand up to these criminals and say enough is enough.
Mike Perlstein, WWL, Louisiana.
Well, judges generally are not allowed to talk about pending cases. The DA's office issued a statement that reads in part, quote, firearms cases often come with some of the most challenging facts to present to jurors and prove beyond a reasonable doubt. We aggressively accept cases and pursue felony dispositions where the facts warrant.